Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Cell. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 18th July 2020. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. Now, as you can see in today's newspaper, there are not many important articles for us from the exam point of view. So do try and revise other important topics for your exam preparation. And for today's DNS, we have chosen these three important topics. So let us start our discussion. Now, this article on page number 6 is related to the Chabahar port issue in Iran. And we note that recently Iran has dropped India's Ircon company from starting the work at the Chabahar railway line. And previously on 14th of July, in the DNS, we have covered this issue of Iran resuming the work on its own of the railway line near the Chabahar port. So in this background, this article discusses that why Iran needs China and also why is Iran's foreign policy tilting towards China. Further, the author analyzes as to why would Iran still go with India and what are the benefits of the India-Iran relationships that Iran is likely to exploit. And at the end, author also provides an insight into what India needs to take care of for pursuing its policy towards Iran and other projects that India is undertaking in its neighborhood. So this can become a very important topic for us from General Studies paper 2 point of view under the topic International Relations. Now what we will do in this video is that we will first discuss the important points that have been highlighted by the author in this regard and then revise from the DNS of 14th July where we have covered the issue of Chabahar port in detail. So now let us look at the issue of Iranian foreign policy tilting towards China or why Iran needs China in the first place. Now this issue has come up in the background of Iran dropping India from the development of railway line at the Chabahar port. And also according to a leaked document, Iran and China are finalizing a 25-year strategic partnership that would involve Chinese investments in Iranian infrastructure and will also assure supplies of Iranian oil and gas at concessional rates to China. So the first reason for increasing tilt of Iran towards China is the instability that is present in the West Asian region. And we note that this region has remained tensed because of the missile attacks that happened on the Saudi oil company or oil facility Aramco. Further, recently, the US drones had killed the Iranian army chief Soleimani. And also recently, in the past weeks, there have been mysterious explosions in Iran. Now, these explosions in Iran are being seen as a step taken by US and Israel to provoke Iran before the US elections. Further, the United States of America wants the ban which has been imposed on Iran by the UNSC Resolution 2231 to be extended further. And this UNSC Resolution 2231 was adopted in July 2015 by consensus to endorse the JCPOA or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on the Iranian nuclear program. And this UN resolution contains a restriction on Iran from importing conventional weapons. Now this resolution will end in the month of October. And in this background, the United States of America wants this ban on the Iran to be extended further. Further, the United States of America wants to impose sanctions which have been imposed under the JCPOA or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, in the UN Security Council, the France and United Kingdom are highly unlikely to veto this move of United States of America. And the only country which can veto the US move are Russia and China. And as Iran knows that China can veto the US moves, it is trying to tilt its foreign policy towards China. So this step of Iran moving towards China is being seen as a balancing act by Iran. Now, although the Iranian foreign policy is moving towards China, why Iran would still like to go ahead with India? So first is that many Iranians in the country are wary of growing Chinese presence. And we note that China has been dominating various countries and they are finding themselves in debt trap because of the lending by China. Further, India is the only country which has a waiver from the sanctions which have been imposed by the US. And accordingly, Iran knows the importance of working with India, which is the only country that enjoys a sanctions waiver from US for the development of Chabahar port. So still there is an opportunity for Iran and India to work together in the development of the Chabahar port. Further, Iran and India are on the same page when it comes to takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. And both these countries are skeptical of the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. And that is why Iran is likely to keep its door open for Indian companies and the Indian government. However, India needs to improve its implementation record of the infrastructure projects that it has taken up in its neighborhood. And we have seen that there have been instances of delays and cost overruns in many such projects which India has undertaken in its neighborhood. And such delays make it easier for China to expand its footprints in India's neighborhood. So the author says that the key for India is to continue to remain politically engaged with Iran so that there is a better appreciation of each other's sensitivities and compulsions. And both the countries can collaborate further to understand the foreign policies and the geopolitical issues that both these countries are facing presently. Now, after understanding the important points highlighted by this article, let us revise from the DNS of 14th July, where we have discussed the issue of Iran dropping India from the development of Chabahar port. And we note that Chabahar port of Iran is strategically very important for India. And at the same time, India was developing this Chabahar port. And in this is a very crucial development that Iran has now dropped India from the Chabahar rail line project. Further, Iran and China are trying to clinch a deal which will be known as the 25-year strategic partnership between the Iran and China, which is also an important cause of concern for India. Now, India and Iran had signed an agreement to construct a rail line from the Chabahar port to Zahedan along the border with Afghanistan. And now Iran has started the development of this rail line project on its own. So in this regard, Iran has cited delays from the Indian side in funding and starting the project, which India had committed 4 years back in 2016 when the Prime Minister of India visited Iran. So this railway project was being developed as a part of the trilateral agreement between Iran, India and Afghanistan. And in this regard, the Indian company Ircon had signed a memorandum of understanding. Now, why did India delay the construction in the first place? So India remained reluctant to start the work because of the fears of attracting US sanctions. And we note that there is an issue going on between Iran and United States of America regarding the Iran's nuclear program. And few years back, the President of United States of America had called off the Joint Comprehensive Plan for Action regarding the Iran's nuclear program. However, an interesting development here was that the United States of America had provided a waiver to India from the sanctions regarding its work in the Chabahar port. However, the Indian company did not start the work because they found it difficult to find the equipment suppliers and partners due to the worries that these suppliers and partners could be targeted by the US sanctions. And accordingly, India was trying to delay the work in the Chabahar rail line project. Further, another cause of concern here is the increasing closeness between Iran and China. And Iran and China are about to finalize a 25-year strategic partnership. And this will include the Chinese involvement in Chabahar's duty-free zone. It will also include a development of oil refinery which will be close to the Chabahar's duty-free zone. And also, it is being said that there will be a larger role in the Chabahar port for China. And this plan has been revealed in a leaked document which is known as the Comprehensive Plan for Cooperation between Iran and China. Now, it is a cause of concern for India because India was developing this port with the aim of countering the Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean region and the West Asian region. And this port is strategically important for India because it gives India the access to Central Asian countries and would also help India in keeping an eye on the Chinese activity in the Gwadar port of Pakistan, which is close to the Chabahar port. So in this background, let us look at the importance of the Chabahar port, or for that matter, the strategic importance of Chabahar port for India, which we have already covered in a previous DNS video. So let us revise from that video the strategic importance of the Chabahar port for India. Now, as you can see in this map here, the Chabahar port is located in the Gulf of Oman in the Arabian Sea. And that is why this location of this port becomes strategically very important to India. Now, the first thing that India wants to achieve by developing this port is that it wants to bypass the Pakistan. And this will allow India to access the landlocked country of Afghanistan and also other Central Asian nations. Now, regarding accessing Afghanistan by bypassing Pakistan, India is trying to develop a railway line which connects the Chabahar port with Zahedan in Iran. And from there, India will connect this Zahedan to Zarang by a road link. Further, India has already developed the Zarang to Dilaram highway in the Afghanistan. So this will provide India the access to Afghanistan from the Chabahar port directly. And as we all know that Afghanistan has been facing the issue of terrorism, etc. And that is why such investments of India in Afghanistan are important for India. Further, China is developing the Gwadar port of Pakistan, and that is why India wants to develop this Chabahar port, which is in close proximity to the Gwadar port, in order to counter the influence of China in the Indian Ocean region. Besides, you should note that this area is known as the Persian Gulf, and almost 20% of the global crude oil passes through this Persian Gulf. So, in order to secure the oil which is transported from this Persian Gulf, India wants its presence in the Chabahar port. And by doing this, it will be important for India's energy security because India is mainly dependent on imports of crude oil for its energy security. So, the first importance of this port is that it will help India in bypassing Pakistan and accessing the landlocked Afghanistan. Secondly, it will help India in countering the influence of China in the Indian Ocean region because this port is located very close to the Gwadar port, which is being developed by China in Pakistan. Further, it is important for India's energy security because India depends upon oil imports for its energy requirements. And majority of the oil globally passes through this Persian Gulf. And that is why by being present at the Chabahar port, India wants to secure its oil imports. Now, another major important initiative which India wants to secure is the International North-South Corridor. And here you should note that in order to access the Central Asian countries, Russia and Europe, India mainly relies presently on the Suez Canal. However, if this International North-South Corridor is completed, India will have an alternative route to access the Russian territory and also the Central Asian nations of Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, etc. So, in this regard, this International North-South Corridor will be linked with Mumbai to Bandar Abbas port in Iran. From there, it will pass through the Caspian Sea, and from there, it will be connected on the land surface in the Russian and the European territories. Now, here, India and Iran are planning that this international north-south corridor will also be connected with the Chabahar port. And that is how the Chabahar port will also be one of the important points for connecting the international north-south corridor. And which will be important for India because it will give India the access to the mainland Eurasia or the European and the Asian countries which are landlocked and do not have direct access to the sea. So that is why this is also one of the important strategic importance of the Chabahar port for India. So all these points make the Chabahar port very important for India. And here you should note that this port has received waiver from the US sanctions despite US imposing sanctions on Iran after the nuclear deal was suspended. And if you notice in the year 2017, there was a question in the preliminary examination related to the importance of developing Chabahar port by India. And you should notice that the correct answer was that India will not depend on Pakistan for access to Afghanistan and Central Asia. So these are few important points related to the Chabahar port, and with this let's move to the next article. Now this article on page number 9 reads that at the UN meet, Indian Prime Minister Modi has called for reformed multilateralism. So in this background, let us look at what is meant by this reformed multilateralism and why is there a need for reforming the current multilateral world order. Also, we will look at what is India's vision for this reformed multilateralism. And these can be important for us from the General Studies paper 2 point of view under the topic International Relations. Now, we note that recently India was elected for the non permanent seat of the United Nations Security Council for the eighth time. And in this background, India has reaffirmed its commitment to the norms policy, which is the new orientation for reformed multilateral system. So, in the background of election of India as a non-permanent member at the UNSC, India has been pushing the objective of reformed multilateralism under the norms framework. And this norms framework provides for five objectives. First is finding of new opportunities for progress. Second is effective response to international terrorism. Third is reforming multilateral systems. Fourth is comprehensive approach to international peace and security. And fifth is technology with a human touch. And in this background, India's reformed multilateralism policy rests on five S's. And these include the Samman, which stands for respect, Samvad, which stands for dialogue, Sahyog, which stands for cooperation, Shanti, which stands for peace, and Samriddhi, which stands for prosperity. So in this background, let us try and understand why is there a need for reforming the current multilateral world order. Now, the current multilateral world order needs a reform because of the various issues that have been witnessed in the working of this particular world order. First issue is that of lack of representation of different countries. And in this background, we note that the permanent membership of United Nations Security Council is very lopsided. And in this UNSC, there is no representation to the majority of the populations, which include populations of South America and Africa, which have zero participation or representation. Further, India and Brazil are the most populous countries, and still they do not find their representation in the UNSC. The second issue with the functioning of the multilateral world order is the lack of accountability. And it has been said that the current multilateralism is skewed towards few global powers. Now, these few global powers have been able to arm twist the geopolitics of various multilateral institutions by the virtue of their military and economic might. And for example, the United States of America has unilaterally withdrawn from funding of various multilateral institutions, and the recent one being the World Health Organization in the background of the COVID-19 pandemic. Further, the US had withdrawn its funding from the UNESCO for its alleged anti-Israel bias in early 2019. Also, the US has withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. And also, there have been instances of the United States of America arm twisting the WTO. And because of the high-handedness of the United States of America, the disputes and the appellate tribunals of the WTO have now become defunct. Further, the countries that are violating the international law have not been held accountable merely because of their economic and military might. And one of the recent examples of the countries not being held accountable for the violation of international law is the China violating the UN clause in the South China Sea. So in 2016, China did not adhere to the UN clause ruling on the rule-based navigation in the South China Sea. Further, the credibility of the World Health Organization has been questioned for its pro-China bias because it had delayed initiating an investigation into the handling of the crisis by China in the initial days. Further, the multilateralism is at its weakest in the present times, and the current system has failed to fulfill its primary objective of shared benefits. And one of the instances has been that in the times of the COVID-19 pandemic created crisis, various countries have selectively pushed for export restrictions in medicines and medical equipments. And China has been reluctant in cooperating with the countries which have raised the issues relating to its strategy to arrest the spread of pandemic. And as a response to this criticism of China, it has responded with economic sanctions against those countries which are questioning its role. Also, the current multilateral world order needs a reform because of the needs of 21st centuries. And most of the challenges of the 21st century are cross-national and cross-domain in character, and they require a purely multilateral approach. And this is clearly highlighted in the way the COVID-19 pandemic has unfolded. So we have seen that this COVID-19 pandemic, which was a health crisis, has now precipitated into an economic crisis. And this has mainly been because of the cross national supply chains and the financial systems that exist today. Further, other important issues that need to be addressed in the 21st century, which can include poverty, hunger, climate change, inequality, fake news, terrorism, are all cross national in character, and they require a more inclusive and democratic multilateral approach. So, after looking at the need for reforming the current multilateral world order, let us look at India's vision for this reformed multilateralism. Now, regarding India's vision for reformed multilateralism, India's ambition has been of securing the permanent seat on the Security Council of the United Nations. And India, along with Japan, Brazil, and Germany, has been pushing for a permanent membership at the UNSC under the G4 grouping. Further, India is pushing the agenda of counterterrorism, and it will remain a key priority for India at the UNSC. Further, India is pushing to depoliticize the process of imposing sanctions on terrorist groups in line with the zero tolerance policy on terrorism that India has been following. Also, India aims at pushing to conclusion the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, which India has been spearheading since 1996. So, in this background, India wants the rule based order in all multilateral financial institutions like the World Trade Organization, IMF, and World Bank. No country should be able to arm twist the functioning of these important international organizations. Further, India needs to push the agenda of creating a more representative multilateral order which is based on important values of pluralism, democracy, and liberalism. Also, India needs to join the Alliance for Multilateralism, which has been mooted by France and Germany, which stands for a rule based world order comprising of like minded countries. So, in this article, we have seen the need for reforming the multilateral world order and what is India's vision for this reformed multilateralism. With this, let's take up the next news article now. On page number 14 is regarding the UN's blacklisting of the Pakistan Taliban leader Noor Wali Mahsood. And he is the head of Tehreek-e-Taliban, which is a terror group which operates in Pakistan. So he has been designated as a global terrorist by the UN for participating in financing, planning, and perpetrating acts on behalf of and in support of entities associated with Al Qaeda. And the UN Security Council's 1267 ISIL and Al Qaeda Sanctions Committee has added Masood now to that list. And previously also, Osama bin Laden's son was added to this list, and also Hafiz Saeed was added to this list. So let us learn about important facts related to the sanctions committee and few important points which can be important for us from the mains examination under the general studies paper 2 under the topic international relations. So here you should note that a blacklisted person is subjected to travel ban, freezing of assets, and an arms embargo. Now regarding freezing of assets, you should note that all the UN member governments across the globe immediately freeze the funds, financial assets, or any economic resources that come under direct or indirect ownership of the designated individual. Which means that all the financial or economic assets of the blacklisted person are frozen by the member nations of the United Nations. Further, regarding travel ban, you should note that the entry or transit of this person is also banned by the members of United Nations. Further, an arms embargo is also imposed on the concerned blacklisted person. So under this, all the member countries are directed to block the channels that might directly or indirectly facilitate the sale of arms to such person. So here we should understand that the blacklisting of a terrorist mainly deals with the travel ban for that person, freezing of economic assets of that person, and also an embargo or restriction on the sale or purchase of arms to that person. And after the person has been blacklisted, the member countries of the United Nations impose all these bans on the concerned person. Now, besides a ban on the travel and the freezing of assets, non-material support is also banned by the UNSC under the blacklisting of a person. And here you should note that any non-material support in the form of technical advice, assistance, or logistic support or training is also banned for the member countries. So the member countries of the UN cannot provide technical advice, assistance, or logistic support to that person. Now here you should note that India is also seeking a ban on the Maulana Azhar Masood, who is known to be the mastermind of the recent Pulwama attacks. and he heads the organization Jaish-e-Mohammed. And presently, he is supposed to be living in the Pakistan. Now, as Pakistan is also a member of the United Nations, and if the UN Security Council blacklists Maulana Azhar Masood, he will also face all these bans under such blacklisting by the UN. Now, after this, let us understand what are the key aspects of the Sanctions Committee of the United Nations Security Council. Now, regarding the Sanctions Committee of the United Nations Security Council, you should note that the Security Council can take action to maintain or restore international peace and security under the Chapter 7 of the UN Charter. And the sanction measures have been provided under the Article 41 of the UN Charter. And these sanctions are different from the use of armed forces in restoring the international peace and security. Now, these sanctions include a range of sanctions, including economic, trade sanctions, or targeted sanctions like arms embargo, travel bans, and financial and diplomatic restrictions. And these sanctions are generally resorted to when the peace has been threatened and diplomatic efforts fail to find a solution. So, in such a scenario, the United Nations Security Council tries to impose sanctions on either persons or entities. And with this, we conclude today's discussion. Now, let's take up the question for the day.